Hey guys, no video for our buying a house in Japan playlist. So you would have seen a video back January, February. There was a trench dug here to put down some pipes, and just before that concrete was laid, the unskilled labourer spotted an opportunity and stuck two pipes in the ground right on the boundary with the next door easement, thinking that it might be useful in the future. So since then, we decided that the pipes that were thrown in the ground sort of haphazardly were actually a little bit big and they weren't quite vertical. So the plan was to use smaller pipes, put them inside, first of all break up the bigger pipes there, and then put the smaller pipes inside and then concrete them in more vertically. So still not really sure what the plan was going to be at this stage, because we don't really know what's going to go in next door and where the windows will be and all sorts of details like that. So you can see at this stage it was January, February, there was not much done next door yet anyway. So the next step, some of you might have seen this already, we did actually show you this bit already, just as a bit of a recap. So stuck the smaller pipes in and then used the level to make sure that they were vertical. Have them sticking out of the ground that far just to give us something to work with to make sure that they're vertical. Because obviously if they were short, you wouldn't be able to put a level on them. So just making sure they're vertical. Because not totally sure what the plan was going to be, but knew that a vertical hole would be a useful thing to have. Those yellow caps aren't to keep water out, because these things are acting like wells. They're filling up with water anyway. It's more just to keep little stones and debris out. More relevant when we cut them off, as you'll see. So then, still about February, you can see the old unskilled labour is a bit cold there. So about February, cut them off, put little caps in just to keep the debris out, keep the rocks and things out. And then it's been pretty much like that since February. Just with the caps in, thinking about the plan, not really sure what the best thing to do was, but just thinking that those holes might be handy. And they're right on the boundary of the easement too, which is a handy place to have them. You can actually see the red boundary markers there right next to them. So that's where we got to with that. And we just sort of been thinking about it, what the best thing to do. What shall we do? What shall we do? Sort of interested to see what would happen next door. Didn't really know anything at that stage. It was just a big clear piece of dirt, wasn't it? So now we're in May. They've got their slabs down next door. We know what's going on. So our plan was, we've been fighting this bamboo back for years. We actually had the fish pond there, some of you remember. And we've been fighting this bamboo to stop it expanding this way any further. And then decided, no, we want it to expand that way now. So we took the fish pond and put it somewhere else. And the plan is now that that bamboo continue. Now there's actually a septic tank under there. It doesn't matter. Bamboo's not going to do much harm to that. So we're letting that bamboo grow now towards the road, because that'll give us more privacy, won't it, as that grows there. And we'll move those potted plants somewhere else as the bamboo expands. So if that goes right up to where that last potted plant is, that will actually give us quite a bit of privacy that way, won't it? But before that happens, I want to take the opportunity to get in there. So go grab another pipe. This is sped up a bit. We know a couple of our viewers get motion sickness, so apologies to you guys. Just sometimes we have to speed up the movement just because otherwise it's too boring, or more boring or something. So we went, cut a few cut over pieces of pipe there left from the other holes. Okay, picked the longest one, got that. Still bags of concrete. That's from years ago. We used that concrete for something and ended up with 4 bags left over, so no shortage of that either. So dig a hole. The plan is to sort of dig it in there and amongst the bamboo, so that once it's finished, we can let the bamboo go crazy there, and the hole will sort of be hidden in the middle of the bamboo, as will half the pole that we'll eventually put in there. Again, for those of you who get motion sickness, sorry about that. Oh yeah, piece of pottery. We've mentioned that before. You can never dig a hole in the garden around this place without picking up a piece of pottery. And it's really common in this town. The old pottery's everywhere, but I always wonder when you pull it out, is that like 50 years old, or is it a 500-year-old piece of pottery? But we can't do anything with it. If we took that to anybody and asked them, they'd laugh at us because everyone's got pottery in their garden here. There's car parks in this town that are actually just full of broken pieces of pottery. It's sort of, they use it like fill, like gravel. So, got a decent hole going there, cut over a piece of pipe. Just taping the end, just to keep the rubble out. It won't keep the water out, but it just might keep a bit of the rubble out until the concrete sets. Once the concrete's set, the bottom will be solid. So sort of make it sort of vertical and then fill it up with concrete, and then once the concrete's around it, can then just sort of move it until it's properly vertical. So actually made 2 batches of concrete. Really wanted to get a bit in there as much as possible to make it as solid as possible. Because we're sort of thinking that a pole was going to go in there. Sort of had a bit of an idea that's what was going to happen. So obviously there'll be a bit of leverage on a decent pole. So want to be strengthened against that. You see the weather's warming up, May. So now we've got the pipe there, concreted in with a can over the top to keep the rubble out, and we can just let that bamboo go now, so it can just cover all that ground if it wants to and grow up nice and tall, give us a bit of privacy, and we'll move the potted plants. So this is a failed, sort of suspected this had failed. We had a few litres of that brown paint that we use on all the buildings, had that free. Now we've used that on tin before, and it took quite well, but sort of suspected it wasn't going to take very well to these galvanised pipes, but just gave it a go. You never know, do you? So it didn't cost anything to do it. Got 3 caps, plastic caps for the end of the poles there. Gave it a paint. Didn't work. It didn't take. That's an adapter. That's actually supposed to join 2 plastic pipes together, but we found that at the home centre, and it happened to adapt the diameter of the hole really well to the diameter of the pipe, because the hole was a little bit bigger than the pipe, and it was perfect. Made it nice and tight. 3 adapters for a couple of bucks each. You see that sort of hidden away in the bamboo already, isn't it? So they're 4 metre poles. They're about half a metre into the ground, so 3.5 metres high. So didn't cut them off yet because weren't quite sure what the plan was going to be. So the next thing was to try and work out what we actually need there. So decided to use this tarp that we already had, just string it up and just see how high it needs to be to sort of block. We want to block what we see, but also, more importantly, block what people walking down the street or people across the street and people next door, what they see when they look towards our direction. So just strung this up and then just walked all around the garden to sort of work out where the lines of sight were. So I sort of came to the conclusion in the end that it needed to start about 30 centimetres off the ground and go up to about 2 metres. Seemed to be about right, just to block. See that house next door, that new house there, that's the entrance there on the corner, right next to the boundary. So they'll be coming and going right there. So don't really need to see that. Don't want to be waving at them every time they come and go. So put that there. And then that gap you can see between the middle pole and the pole on the right, we want to drive in and out through there. We don't want to have that blocked all the time, because it is good to be able to drive in that way. It makes it easier to park rather than have to do a 3-point turn when we get in. So I went and checked it out from the street, had a look from the street. Yeah, okay, that covers pretty well. Pretty happy with that. So then stuck the little plugs back in the ground again, took the poles out, because all this, there was no urgency for any of this, of course. Got on the internet then to Rakuten, which is sort of like an Amazon type thing in Japan, where we can buy things cheaply, and started to research, and then ordered some shade cloth, and then went in here and ended up getting some brown downpipe that just slightly bigger, the diameter was slightly bigger than the poles, and just slipped that over the top, which is perfect because that stuff weathers really well, and it's the same colour as the downpipe on the rest of the house. and it gives a nice finish. See that plastic finish? So that was fabulous. And then a little bit of bicycle inner tube and some cable ties. And then cable tied some, what do you call those things? Carabiners? They're not really carabiners, they don't lock. They're just the little clippy things. Little clippy things. Cable tied some clippy things to the poles. The idea was that the plastic or the rubber inner tube, tire inner tube, would stop them slipping on the plastic. So cable tied them into place. Now this particular day, getting this ready, and Rakuten had said that the shade cloth was going to be delivered on this day. So I was sort of getting ready for it, knowing that was coming. So I knew the height of that, so cut 1 meter off each of the poles. Already done one, obviously, that's why there's only 2 there. I actually had to number them too, because the depth of the holes were different and the locations, so slight delay in play due to rain. Timing, come on. Actually did a bit of stuff in the rain, but eventually gave up on the next bit, had to wait for the rain to stop. Beautiful though, beautiful May rain, beautiful sweet smell. Finally stopped, okay, good, poles in the ground. Got them in the ground and the delivery van turned up. So it was perfect. So there's the clips on the top. Haven't done the bottom ones yet, weren't quite sure where they needed to go. Fabulous, the box is here, let's open it up and have a look. So the plan was, got 3 shade cloths that are 3 meters by 2 meters. Wanted 1.7 meters, but there just wasn't that combination. So I got 3 of them that are 2 meters by 3 meters. And the idea was to cable tie the 3 of them together so that we've got one length that was 9 meters by 2. That was the plan. However, they weren't exactly the same size. So they're only $25 each, these things, right? So sort of they had a good reviews on Rakuten, so we knew they'd be okay, but obviously they're so cheap, $25 each. So they weren't perfect, so they weren't exactly the same sizes, and the eyelets weren't the same in the same place. So joining them together was impossible too. Sorry about the focus, guys. It's only for a minute. Just bear with it for a second. So really windy day it was as well to make it worse, but it just wasn't working. Joining them together lengthwise, end on end, just wasn't going to work. Just wasn't happening. And then when we tried this, the side eyelets on it, actually, one of them actually pulled out because they're just not strong enough. The ends are stronger, but the sides are just not. So that was the original plan, was to hook it using little loops onto the pole like that, and it just pulled out in that wind, just pulled out. So okay, that didn't work. A lot of the jobs go like this. Start them with a vague plan, and then as you start to try and put it together, you have to keep modifying the plan. So came to the conclusion that this black nylon rope that we have, some of you might remember from 10 years ago, it was miles and miles of rope lying around the place when we took it over, and we put it all together. So whenever we need rope for anything, we've always got loads of it. So this nylon, black nylon rope, and then cable tied lengthways to the rope on each eyelet. So that's going to spread the stress, isn't it? Spread the load, top and bottom. So rather than feed the rope through the eyelets, just cable tied to the rope. And then just sort of tried to work out where to put it at the bottom. So we've done it with these carabiner clip things because we want to be able to unclip them and take them down in typhoon season when there's typhoon coming, or just for any other reason. Can take the poles out of the ground too. If we want to get a truck up the side there or something, for whatever reason, if we need to take it down, we can take it down in about 2 minutes, you know, clip, unclip it, pull the poles out, and it's gone. And then the other one that's going to go to the right, we're not going to have that in all the time. Most of the time it's not going to be there because we want to drive in and out there. But when we have a barbecue or the kids are put a little plastic pool up in the front, we want a little bit more privacy, we can put it up. So just a bit of faffing around there, getting it adjusted to make it a little bit more even. And that was the result. So interesting. We knew from what was written on at Rakatan that you'd be able to see through it, but from the outside, from the street looking towards the house, it's fine, isn't it? How's that for privacy? Happy with that. Very happy with that, because that's a bedroom directly in front of us there too. And it's also where we hang out when we have barbecues, and the pool we put just to the left of there, just there on that concrete we put the pool, an inflatable pool. So that's sort of solved it really, that part anyway. And when they get that house built and they're coming and going, you know, that bamboo's going to grow there in the centre. Those other trees are growing. We've got our maki that we planted there that's growing as well, and our bamboo. So that's where the pool, we're standing where the pool goes now. So that's what it's going to be like from the pool. So we're happy with that. Japanese people are pretty respectful to each other's privacy anyway, so they're usually not standing there staring at you, usually, but it just makes us feel like it's more private this way too. So anyway, that was the privacy project. More videos coming soon.